I have the pleasure today to talk to Simon Lonsdale. Simon is the Vice President for Business Development at ChargePoint, and we're going to talk about an announcement that he and his company and four other companies made recently at the Detroit Auto Show, announcing the creation of ROEV, and that's not R-O-V-E, it's R-O-E-V. And maybe you can explain, Simon, what that means and why you didn't pick the former acronym for the other acronym. So welcome to EV World.
Hey, thank you, Bill, and thanks for giving me, on behalf of ROEV, the chance to talk today about our organization. ROEV, R-O-E-V, it's definitely a play on the word rove, roving, being able to move around freely. It's R-O-E-V because you can think of it as roaming for EVs, electric vehicles.
Right.
And that's really what the organization's about. www.roev.org is the best place to go on the web and find it. And I was really thrilled at the recent LA Auto Show to stand up and announce the launch of ROEV along with the other founders of it. And it's set up as a neutral collaboration of industry companies that are involved in electric vehicles, with the primary goal of making it easier for electric vehicle drivers and owners to roam around and use electric charging anywhere that they go. And so our primary goal is really to give access to multiple charging stations on multiple networks to a driver with a single card and a single account.
Right. Now, the thing I found interesting was that you've got ChargePoint, you have the, car charging Blink, and then you also have NRG system. And that's like 91% of the chargers that are out there. And if I remember the numbers correctly, something like 17,000 chargers. Are all of those publicly accessible chargers, by the way?
That's a great question, Bill. Yes. So the founding members of the ROEV organization are NRG EVgo, Car Charging Blink, ChargePoint, BMW, and Nissan.
Right.
And the first three of those are the network owners and operators of the largest networks out in the United States today. And as you say, we represent over 17,500 publicly accessible networked charging stations. And that is 91% of all the publicly accessible network charging stations that are available to drivers today. Our goal at ROEV is to get to 100% of those network charging stations in public that are available to a driver, so that it's easier and easier to get in your car, in your electric car, drive wherever you want to with the comfort and the confidence of knowing that you'll be able to charge at where you're going.
Right. Now, do you know what the percentage of those are what we refer to as level 2, and what percentage of those would be DC fast charge?
I do not know the exact percentage. The majority are level 2 charges that are out there by far. But as an industry, we are seeing more and more fast chargers that are going in the ground and accessible. The BMW and Nissan are both very active in helping to promote and to encourage the market to put fast charging in. And so you see fast chargers that are included in that number from all three of our companies, from ChargePoint, from NRG EVgo, and from Car Charging Blink.
Okay. Now, early on, a lot of the installations were funded through federal subsidies and grants to obviously help drive and stimulate this. Those funds are no longer available. I think they were pretty well used up, is my understanding. So are we seeing kind of a plateau in the number of chase stations that are out there? Or has the pace with which they're being deployed slowed somewhat because we don't have that influx of federal funds?
Yeah, I can see why you asked this question. Yes, in the early days, the first few thousand charging stations were put in with the help of of federal and state funding. And that has dried up, particularly for the level 2, but we see a very robust business across the networks in companies, businesses, cities, retail establishments, workplaces, all wanting to put in EV charging because of the environmental benefits and because of the benefits of bringing electric vehicle drivers to those places. So we see a very continual growth in the number of charging stations out there. In the DC fast charging, we're seeing both that private industry stimulus, and we are still seeing some state stimulus to help with the fast charging backbone that's necessary as people get used to their electric vehicles and want to drive it as their primary vehicle. They go further with it and they want to get access to this charging network, both fast charging for long distance, but also destination charging at hotels and also charging where they shop and where they work.
Right.
So we see all of those.
Yeah, let's sort of describe the issue that brought this about is because we had these three large independent networks that had their own types of chargers and their own ways of managing them and how they were being billed and how you were able to access them. And as I understand it, you know, you might be on one system and you'd come up to, let's say you were a ChargePoint member and the closest available charger was a Blink charge system. You couldn't use the ChargePoint card to get access to that Blink charger. You had to be on the Blink system to get to it, if I understand correctly.
No, that is correct, and that's what ROEV is aiming to simplify by helping to bring the networks together, by bringing together the car companies and other ecosystem players that are important. We're all working as an industry to make it simpler and easier and better to drive an EV and to charge anywhere. And that is what we're moving towards as we now have launched ROEV, and as we roll out the next phases, it will be that ability to make sure that a driver who has an account with one of the network operators who's in ROEV can first of all see all of the charging stations of all of the other networks and also see whether they're available or in use, or if anything's wrong with it, that they're unable to use it. The second phase will be being able to use their mobile phone, their app on their phone for their one account to be able to charge at any of those stations. And the third phase will be to actually tap your card and use that card. One thing about the reason the card is the third phase is we want to take this opportunity of ROEV to move to a new standard, a new common standard that can be accepted by all of the stations that are out there and by all of the networks that are out there.
Okay, well, because that was where I was leading to with my question is that, there have to be, it seems to me there has to be software changes behind the scenes. I mean, we do have a common standard, at least for non-Tesla cars. We do have the SAE standard. So the plug on one vehicle is going to, fit, or on this that's on the charger is going to fit any vehicle out there, with the exception, of course, of a Tesla model. And I'll ask you about that in just a minute. So the plug side is okay. So it sounds to me like most of what's happening here has to do with software changes to the apps that the companies offer, and also to the operating system behind the scenes that talks to the networks and that type of thing.
I think you really captured the essence of it here. ROEV is bringing together all these parties to make sure that the networks can talk to each other in the background, so that they can communicate this card and this mobile app, so that for the driver it's a very seamless transaction. That using their one account, they can plug in and successfully charge at any of these different network stations.
So who's taking?
It is primarily software work that's being done in the background, and that the companies that are forming ROEV are signing up to work together on.
Okay, so are you each going to sort of contribute 4 or 5 programmers to talk in a common room and sit there and code this thing, or are you hiring a separate independent party?
It's actually a little easier than that. There's already some standards work that's being done that many companies are collaborating with a third-party standards organization here in the United States around this. And so when we sign up for ROEV, what we do as a network operator is we sign up to adopt and implement that standard. And then the second part of ROEV, so the first part of ROEV is the technical adoption of standards. The second part of ROEV is the certification of these networks so that the networks are certified to interoperate. And so that's what ROEV is now setting up now that we're formed, is this technical committee and a certification committee.
So